Welcome to the story behind the hymn with Faye Wheeler. This is Season 3, Episode 9.
Included in almost every major hymnal of the last 30 years, Were You There?, is one of the most prominent and popular of the African American spirituals. Like most spirituals, the origins of Were You There are impossible to trace, born not from the pen of an individual, but out of the communal slave experience. It includes 4 stanzas. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they nailed him to the cross? Were you there when they pierced him in the side? Were you there when the sun refused to shine? The United Methodist hymnal, along with many other songbooks, includes a 5th verse. Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? None of us were physically present at the Passion of Christ. Rather, the questions are meant to function as a form of anamnesis. From the Greek, anamnesis literally means to remember. When Moses tells the 2nd generation of Hebrew people about to enter the promised land, not with our ancestors did the Lord make this covenant, but with us, who are all of us here alive today. It is anamnesis, meaning remembrance of the past. When Jews continued to proclaim at the Passover Seder, we were slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt, and the Lord our God took us out. It is anamnesis when the Christian community celebrates the Lord's Supper in remembrance of Christ. Were You There is then an anamnetic song that is meant to bring the past events of Christ's suffering and death into the present and transform us in its light. The song also calls us to remember the African American slave experience, out of which the song arose. As James Cone notes in The Cross and the Lynching Tree, the cross is central to the African American experience. The cross was the foundation on which their faith was built. For African Americans, this remembering of the cross allowed them to claim the Christ who knew their suffering and stood in solidarity with their oppression. African American pastor, author, and civil rights leader Howard Thurman gives one poignant example in his memoir. With head and heart on a trip to India, he and his wife Sue had the honor of meeting with Mahatma Gandhi. After a wonderful conversation, the talk took a surprising turn as the Thurmans prepared to leave. Thurman notes, but before we left, he asked, "Will you do me a favor? Will you sing one of your songs for me? Will you sing, Were You There When They Crucified My Lord?" This song, born from the crucible of suffering, spoke to any and all around the world who faced oppressions of every kind. As we continue our journey through Lent and prepare for a Good Friday, where many of our congregations will no doubt sing, Were You There?, anamnesis calls us not only to remember Christ's death, but also the stories at the hand of oppression. As mass incarceration, discriminatory drug policies, and police brutality continue to disproportionately target our African Americans and other people of color, the song continues to give comfort to the oppressed that they serve a suffering Savior, especially present in their suffering. Yet, it also asks those of us in privileged positions of comfort, not only if we were there at the cross of Christ, but if we are there in the suffering of the oppressed, where Christ's cross still stands. Enjoy Candy Euler signing as Randall Gray and Will Euler sing, Were You There?
Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, Were you there when they nailed him to the cross? Were you there when they nailed him to the cross? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, Were you there when they laid him in a tomb? Were you there when they laid him in a tomb? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they laid him in a tomb? Were you there when he rose up from the grave? Were you there when he rose up from the grave? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when he rose up from the grave?
You are listening to The Story Behind the Hymn with Faye Wheeler. We'll be back after these brief messages.
Hi, my name is Ron Hobbs, and I have a special invitation for you. The First Presbyterian Church would like to invite you to our Good Friday Road to the Cross experience. On Friday, April 15th, the sanctuary will be transformed from 1 o'clock in the afternoon to 7 in the evening to depict the events during the last 4 days of Jesus' earthly life. Your journey with Jesus starts in the Garden of Gethsemane and follows the path that leads to the cross on Calvary and results in Jesus' death and burial in the tomb. As you walk along, take your time to ponder such events as Judas's betrayal, Peter's denial, and Pilate judging than the guards scourging Jesus. This interactive experience will allow you to touch the scourge that the guards used to flog Jesus, feel the spines on the crown of thorns, or even lift the beam that Jesus carried. Background sound and images will enhance your experience. This journey will prepare you to celebrate the miracle of Jesus' resurrection on Easter Sunday. I urge you to join us on Good Friday, April 15th. Come anytime between 1 and 7 p.m. and plan to spend 20 or 30 minutes or longer reflecting on the sacrifice Jesus has made for us.
Welcome back to The Story Behind the Hymn with Faye Wheeler.
Bill Dougal relates this about our hymn story today. For God so loved the world. I saw Dr. Al Smith for the first time while attending Thomas Road Bible Institute in Lynchburg, Virginia in 1974. Prior to that time, I never thought about the stories behind the hymns, but after meeting, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Little did I know how that Sunday night service would have such an impact on my life. Alfred Barney Smith was born November 8th, 1916, in Midland Park, New Jersey. His education included Juilliard School of Music in New York City, Moody Bible Institute in Chicago, and Wheaton College. While attending Wheaton, Al Smith became good friends with Billy Graham, and for a time was his first song leader. In 1941, Al founded Singspiration Publishing. He followed that in 1972, founding Encore Publishing, which produced one of the best hymnals of all times, Living Hymns. In his lifetime, he would write over 500 gospel songs and choruses, including Surely Goodness and Mercy and For God So Loved the World. In 1981, Dr. L. published his Treasury of Hymn Histories, which has become my Bible for a hymn stories. It's from that publication that I get the story For God So Loved. Back in 1938, a young Al Smith was visiting George Steppens, the gospel song composer. Mr. Steppens had worked with D.L. Moody, Ira Sankey, P.P. Bliss, and Fanny Crosby, the great evangelists of the 19th century. For 3 hours, Al listened to the fascinating stories about these men and women of God, how the gospel songs drew souls to the cross, and how these songs were born. That afternoon, he dedicated his life to the ministry of music. Due at a meeting that evening, Al had to leave, but he left with a strong desire to write songs as Mr. Steppens had. His trip from Catskill gave him time to think and to write. Arriving at the Townsend home, Al left an uncompleted song on the piano as he rushed off to the meeting. Looking at the chorus, Frances Townsend noticed a phrase was missing. Taking a pencil, she inserted, "What glory that will be," and a song was born. For God so loved the world, he gave his only Son to die on Calvary's tree, from sin to set me free. Someday he's coming back. What glory that will be. Wonderful his love to me. Listen as the piano plays this tune.
Thank you for listening to The Story Behind the Hymn with Faye Wheeler. This is a Presbypod production of Aunt Betty's Studios, a ministry of First Presbyterian Church, Carson City.